Hi everyone, Don Genova here with another Foodie Friday for Russell Books, and this week I have a special guest in the kitchen. It's Denise Marchessault, and Denise is a chef, a cookbook author, a food writer, a cooking instructor right here in Victoria, and her latest book is called The Artful Pie Project, along with Deb Garlick. We're going to talk about Deb in a bit. This is a sweet and savory book of recipes, and why did you want to do a pie book?
Well, the reason I want to do a pie book is because I've heard from so many students who are mystified by making pastry. And pastry really does make the pie, and it's so easy to do once you know a few simple steps. So I really wanted to showcase that. And who doesn't love a great pie?
Well, I love a great pie. And forget the frozen one. Let's make it from
Absolutely.
scratch. And part of what I really love about this book are the step-by-step instructions and the illustrations, and that's where Deb came in.
Yes, yes. I think this book is so beautiful because Deb's contribution really brought the book to life. It has whimsical illustrations throughout. So although it's a technical book, it's actually so much fun to look at because there's all these whimsical little drawings throughout, and I really think that disarms the baker. So it's both technical, but really fun to read.
I think I found that with bread, that it's a technical thing, but once you do it a few times,
yes,
it's actually quite easy.
Yes.
And there's beauty things in bread, and there's beauty things in pie too.
And the photography is stunning.
Yeah.
I have to say the photography is stunning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's get into the actual making
Yay.
of the pastry here and
Okay.
show us how easy it is.
Okay. All right, so the first thing I like to do is mix the flour and the salt together. So you just want to make sure you have a big enough bowl. And then after that, I take 1 egg with 1 tablespoon of vinegar.
What's the vinegar for?
The vinegar actually cuts down the gluten. So it doesn't get, you don't want too much gluten in pie pastry. It's not like bread where you need to knead it. So those two I have aside. I have this aside here. Now I like to mix in you can use, this is lard, or you could use vegetable shortening or butter. And I add those to the flour. And then I'm going to incorporate it with a pastry blender. Now, if you don't have a pastry blender, you can use 2 knives, but this is so much more efficient. So I'm going to incorporate the fat into the flour.
And the fat you've kept chilled in the fridge until you're ready to use it?
I prefer to have it chilled in the fridge before I use it. Now, it's not as important with lard, but it is as important with butter. Okay. Now, where most people go wrong is they overmix this part. And what you're looking for is not a homogeneous mixture of fat and flour, but you want to have some bean-sized pieces mixed in with the smaller pieces. So it's not supposed to be super even.
And that helps make it flaky?
Yes, it's actually the moisture in the fat when it's in the oven creates steam, and the steam rises and creates those nice flaky layers.
Now, this is not a puff pastry, but you do have instructions how to make a puff pastry as well.
Yes, yes, puff pastry and rough puff pastry, which is a version of puff pastry, but a little bit easier to master. And again, it's not difficult. It's just taking those little steps.
Okay, so I'm seeing, yeah, I can see the texture getting to what you have described.
Right. So I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to put my hand in here to show you. So you have some small pieces, but you have these bean-sized pieces as well. And that's really what you're looking for. Okay? So it's not an even mixture.
Right.
So it's okay to see these little chunks here and there. Okay, now after you finish that part, then we're going to add our liquid. And the way I like to do this is I like to have ice cold water. And I like to fill my measuring cup up to 1 cup. Okay, and I'm going to mix that together.
Oh, the other thing I like about your book is that you put weights in there along with volumes. So if I don't want to fuss with butter by trying to measure a cup of butter, you tell me how many grams that is, and I can use my little kitchen scale for that.
Yes, yeah, that was quite a debate with the publisher.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was like, I really fought hard for that one, so I'm glad you appreciate it.
No, I totally approve. I think
Good.
I think doing these things by weights are so much easier. Than
I think if
volumes, yeah.
more cooks had scales in the kitchen, they would find it so much easier. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add just enough water so that the dough comes together. And every time you add liquid, it's often never the same amount. It depends on the age of the flour, the humidity level. So we're just going to add about half right now. And then I'm going to mix it together. And I just use a fork for this.
How many pie crusts would you say you've made in your pie making career?
I've lost count, especially while testing recipes for the book. But I've been baking pies for years, and everything I learned along the way is in the book. So.
I think I'm thinking back to my my aunts who were kind of like my grandmas.
Yes.
And they made pies every week, and it was usually apple.
Yes.
Quite often pumpkin.
Yes.
The odd cherry. But boy, they were good. And then a friend of theirs, she made beautiful blueberry and gooseberry pies. That the blueberries and gooseberries were picked at the fishing camp that she used to go to with my uncle back in the day, right? And they'd go out and have wild blueberry pie and wild gooseberry pie.
Well, the nice thing about pie is whether it's sweet or savory, you can put anything in a pie.
Yeah.
You can put a stew in a pie. You can put any kind of fruit or vegetable in a pie. That's why it's such a great way to use up leftovers too for mini pies. So I've added just enough water so that the liquid so that there's no dry pieces at the bottom. Okay? So now that's it. That's the hardest part of the job, right?
Yep.
We're done. So now we're just going to transfer this to our work surface. And I like to use parchment paper. So I'm going to put this on parchment like so. And the reason I use parchment is because you don't have to handle it, and it comes together beautifully. Okay, so
because your hands would warm it up, and you want to keep it cool.
Exactly, exactly. So I touch it as little as possible, and then I'm just going to shape it into 2 small discs. And I don't like to put balls of dough in the fridge because then you have to smash down the balls and roll them out. So we're just going to put them in 2 small discs like this. And that's it. I'm going to wrap these up, and then we're going to let them refrigerate. We're going to refrigerate them for about an hour, and then we'll be able to roll them out.
But we have magic happening.
Yes, through the magic of TV, yes. Okay. So now we're just going to put a little bit of flour on our parchment.
This is the best idea.
What's that?
You're going to put a piece of
plastic wrap on
top, and then nothing sticks.
That's absolutely right.
So after years of me getting my countertop sticky, getting my hands sticky, getting the rolling pin sticky.
And I think that's what frustrates people about making pastry, is it makes a mess, and then because it's sticky, they keep adding more flour, and that's what creates a tough dough. I usually use a French rolling pin, which has a tapered edge, but I'm just going to use this.
The good old-fashioned one.
The good old-fashioned one. And what I do is I roll from the center and I roll outwards. And the nice thing about having a piece of parchment is you can
just turn it so easily.
Yeah, easily turn it. Now I'm used to using a dowel, a French rolling pin, so I don't like to use the ends.
And it's how do I want to say? It's forgiving.
It is very forgiving. There's nothing that's terribly precious about this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer it to a pie plate, and I let the parchment do the work for me.
Okay.
So
All
see how I use the parchment. Okay. Now we're going to transfer it like so. And that's it.
Easy.
It is. It's so easy. And you can even shape it with the plastic in place like this, and then you can remove the plastic. And that's it. You're done.
Now it's ready to fill. Or you actually refrigerate that
now,
again.
this is the part that you have to refrigerate this again. And so what I tell people when they're making pies is it's best to break it down into manageable pieces. I like to make my pastry one day, my pastry and filling one day, and then assemble it the next day, because you need the pastry to chill, and you need the filling to chill. in most cases, unless you're making a fruit galette.
Yes, well, I was actually I followed one of your recipes yesterday, and it was for a fruit galette. I used preserved peaches.
Perfect.
And I used some frozen fruit, and I followed your pastry recipe exactly, I think, and it actually came out.
It does. It
very
looks
nicely.
beautiful. It looks
tasted-
quite
tasted
similar
great,
to the
and-
picture, too.
And there you are. So,
Well done.
so the book once again is called The Artful Pie Project. We've got a little bit of flour on here, so it's very
Perfect.
authentic, by Denise Marchessault and Deb Garlick, and it's available at Russell Books. That's it for this week's Foodie Friday, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Denise.
Don.